Halo teman-teman, selamat pagi. Hari ini pada hari Minggu pukul 9.27 tanggal 29 Maret. Aku lagi berada di Taman Menteng buat ikut silent book reading. Ya, kalau kalian tahu di Instagram itu para pembaca buku itu banyak ada kegiatan-kegiatan silent reading. Habis itu mereka ngobrol tentang buku yang dibaca. Cuman hari ini, hello El, welcome, halo Bang Gorgon. Hari ini kita topik live-nya beda ya, soalnya aku lagi baca buku. Ini judul bukunya Awas Ada Zombie, Kak. Suaraku kedengeran nggak? Suaraku nggak kedengeran nggak Bang Gorgon dan Bang El? Halo Dini, welcome. Aman. Oke, soalnya aku cuma pakai TWS doang. Dan ya ini sebenarnya aku nggak rencana untuk live ini sih, tapi aku pikir karena aku mau nambah branding branding tentang sebagai book reader, jadi aku mau nge-live aku sambil baca buku. Jadi karena aku memang hobinya baca buku dari kecil, cuman kayak dalam 10-15 tahun terakhir aku agak reading Islam, jadi nggak terlalu banyak buku yang aku baca. Dan aku berencana untuk baca buku Commandant of Auschwitz by Rudolf Hess. Jadi kalau kalian tahu waktu Perang Dunia II, buku apa itu? Ya, ini buku biografinya komandan camp konsentrasi di Jerman yang ngebantai orang Yahudi itu. Ini ya, ini bukunya. Aku sebenarnya udah baca ini ya sekitar 1/4 part, tapi ini kayak DNF gitu, kepotong sama. Dan buku ini menurut aku lumayan ya, karena biografi kan, jadi agak berat gitu loh. Ya kita baca bareng-bareng aja ya, biar nggak bosan. Kalau kalian bosan mau pergi nggak apa-apa sih, aku akan tutup yapping. Jadi ini Rudolf Hess ini adalah salah satu komandan yang memerintah di camp concentration camp, bukan concentration camp. Ya sih, concentration camp juga sih, di Auschwitz, waktu di Polandia. Waktu Perang Dunia II kan ada tuh kejadian yang namanya Holocaust, di mana Nazi Jerman itu membantai orang-orang Yahudi, karena orang-orang Yahudi itu dibantainya di camp ini gitu. Dan yang memerintah itu salah satunya yang terkenal adalah Rudolf Hess. Oke. Jadi dia ada bikin biografi gitu, dan ya gitu, dia menceritakan dari sudut pandang dia gitu. Dia sebenarnya kalau aku baca ini udah baca sih so far, sebenarnya dia menyesal gitu. Dia kan sebenarnya orangnya orang Katolik gitu. Cuman ya kalau kalian baca sih aku pernah baca artikel Wikipedia gitu. Halo Dasis, welcome. Halo Nurul, welcome. Jadi kalau aku baca artikel Wikipedia tentang Holocaust dan komandan-komandannya, artikel-artikel gitu, jadi mereka tuh agak kesulitan, bukan agak kesulitan, kayaknya dicuci otak supaya tidak membantah order, perintah di atasnya gitu loh ya. Oke, ini aku akan bacain dulu kayak sinopsis belakangnya gitu. This book is filled with evil. It has no literary quality, and reading it is agony, comments Primo Levi in his introduction. The author comes across as what he is, a coarse, stupid, arrogant, long-winded scoundrel. Ini aja udah di roasting sama Primo Levi. Primo Levi itu salah satu korban orang Yahudi yang jadi korban Holocaust. And yet it is one of the most instructive books ever published. Rudolf Hess was commandant of Auschwitz during the war. Taken prisoner by the British, he was ordered to write his autobiography in the weeks between his trial and his execution. This is it. An extraordinary and unique document. Hess was in charge of the huge extermination camp in Poland, where the Nazis murdered some 3 million Jews. From the time of its creation, he was responsible for building it in 1940s until then in 1942. By which time, the mass exterminations were half completed. Before this, he had worked in other concentration camps, and afterward, he was at the Inspectorate in Berlin. He thus knew more, both at first hand and as an administrator, about Nazi Germany's greatest crime than almost anyone. Captured by the British, he was handed over to the Poles, tried, sentenced to death, and taken back to Auschwitz and there hanged. Jadi, halo, selamat datang teman-teman yang baru datang. Hari ini agenda kita adalah baca buku. Ini bukunya, Commandant of Auschwitz. Aku lagi di Taman Menteng, jadi biasanya mungkin sebulan sekali itu di sini ada orang-orang datang buat ngumpul baca bareng aja, silent reading. Jadi aku nggak akan terlalu ngomong terlalu keras atau terlalu ini juga ya. Kita akan baca bareng aja. Kan mending lihat pemandangan apa lihat bukunya. Halo Koko, welcome. Halo Aruto Nogaru, welcome. Hari ini aku tidak main game ya, mungkin nanti malam. Kalau Pi join Indonesia Book Party aja. Iya, aku ada kok, baru aku follow Instagramnya gitu. Oh, kamu juga join komunitas itu? Kamu ikut yang creator camp yang tanggal berapa sih? Minggu depan ya? Aku nggak tahu deh. Kamu ikut nggak itu yang mereka kerjasama Indonesian Book Party apa Jakarta Book Party dengan TikTok Creator Program itu? Enggak, aku nggak bisa soalnya. Kenapa? Oh, kan bisa hybrid, Koko. Bisa online juga loh itu. Oke, kita baca ya autobiografi. Oh, kalau kamu suka membaca, kamu kasih tahu aku. Jadi, kamu punya Goodreads nggak? Kalau ada, aku mau follow. Hehehe. Biasanya kalau aku tahu punya teman, aku kan di Cilegon, aku nggak mau jadi teacher. Aku mau belajar sih, kayak aku nggak ada Goodreads. Oh, kamu pakai apa? Biasa kan, maksudnya kan kadang orang suka ada pakai book tracker gitu. Kamu sukanya pakai apa gitu? Aku sih pakai Goodreads ya, karena aku kan milenial, aku kan sudah tua. Apa ya tadi? Aku mau coba sih, soalnya aku kan sama ini cuma main game doang. Tapi aku mau sekalian nge-review buku juga gitu. Gak ada sih, aku nggak pakai baca ya, baca aja. Ya kan bagusnya di track juga sih. Maksudnya tuh biar kalau buat aku pakai buku tulis itu biar aku bisa nge-track aku udah baca apa aja, terus aku lagi baca dan aku mau baca apa aja. Jadi kalau aku lupa aku mau baca apa ya, ya aku tinggal lihat listnya biar aku apa gitu. 3 bulan ini aku udah baca 4 buku. Oh, baca buku apa aja? Kamu udah baca Alchemist belum? Aku sih udah baca. Aku Februari Maret ini kayaknya nggak banyak baca deh. Aku cuma baca Alchemist. Iya, paling terakhir Alchemist itu pun aku tamatin di tahun baru kemarin. Jadi pas Januari itu aku udah tamat Alchemist sebenarnya. Belum, aku masih baca buku fiksi. Oh, oke, ya. Alchemist kan fiksi. Aku udah baca Secrets of Secret Dan Brown. Oh, udah baca belum? Oh ya, aku harus baca ini loh, Hunger Games tuh yang apa sih yang buku yang nanti November itu keluar filmnya, lupa tuh. Kan ada prequelnya tuh ada A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, sama yang satu lagi tuh gitu. Lupa. Aku belum beli lagi. Belum ada budgetnya. Tahun kemarin aku cuma tamat 6 buku. Aku lagi baca Sherlock Holmes. Oh ya, Sherlock Holmes yang mana Kak Bang L? Belum. Aku mager tahu kena Islam gara-gara baca buku self improvement mana yang kamu baca? Aku terakhir tahun lalu itu aku baca ini bukunya Dr. Andreas Kurniawan, seorang laki-laki yang melewati duka dengan mencuci piring, sama sequelnya itu seorang wanita yang ingin terlahir sebagai pohon semangka di kehidupan berikutnya. Aku masih baca Harry Potter sih, belum kelar. Kamu udah baca di buku mana? Aku baca yang Bagaimana Jika Tuhan Bilang Tidak. Nah, itu bikin aku malas baca. Kenapa? Bang El lagi baca Sherlock Holmes yang mana? Oh, itu yang buku Cara Jadi Semangka. Enggak, jadi intinya buku yang semangka itu kan cuma nyeritain salah satu pasiennya Dr. Andreas ya, dan itu kesan yang aku dapat waktu baca itu memang sebenarnya isi di dalam topik-topik mental health yang umum sih, cuman dia itu disajikan dengan cara seakan-akan siapa tuh namanya, si wanita itu datang sebagai pasien. Awalnya kan ada penolakan tuh. Setelah ada penolakan, mulailah kayak si dokter Andes tuh nge-approach dia gitu. Jadi seakan-akan kita melihat dia itu kita jadi penonton di kita menonton mereka sisi terapi mereka gitu. Lemon Tree juga aku belum baca Sir Arthur Conan Doyle koleksi kasus 1. Soalnya kata temanku Bang El, Sherlock Holmes itu banyak ininya, jadi aku nggak tahu mau beli yang mana untuk Sherlock Holmes gitu. Oh, sama yang Kios Pasar Sore, aku belum baca Kios Pasar Sore. Oke, aku baca dulu ya autobiografinya ya. Okay. Autobiography. In the following pages, I want to try and tell the story of my innermost being. I shall attempt to reconstruct from memory a true account of all important events and occurrences in my life, and of the psychological heights and depths through which I have passed. In order to give a complete picture as possible, it is essential that I first return to the earliest experience of my childhood. Until I was 6 years old, we lived in the remoter outskirts of Baden-Baden, in a neighborhood consisting of scattered and isolated farmhouses. The children in the neighborhood were all much older than I, and consequently I had no playmates, and was dependent for companionship on grown-up people. I derived little pleasure from this, and tried, whenever possible, to escape their supervision and go off on voyages of solitary exploration. I was fascinated by the immense woods with their tall, black forest pines that began near our house. I never ventured to go far into them, however, never beyond a point where I was able, from the mountain slopes, to keep our own valley in sight. Indeed, I was actually forbidden to go into the forest alone, since when I was younger, some traveling gypsies had found me playing by myself and had taken me away with them. I was rescued by a neighboring peasant who happened by chance to meet us on the road and who brought me back home. A spot that I found particularly attractive was the large reservoir that supplied the town. For hours on end, I would listen to the mysterious whisper of the water behind its thick wall, and could never, despite the explanation of my elders, understand what this was. But most of my time I spent in the farmers, buyers, and stables. Aku nggak tahu nih gimana cara pronounce buyers ini. And when people wished to find me, it was always there, that they looked for me first. The horses particularly delighted me, and I never tired of stroking them and talking to them and giving them tidbits. If I could lay my hand on a brush or a currycomb, I would at once begin grooming them. In spite of the famous anxiety, I would creep between the horses' legs while I brushed them, and never to this day has an animal kicked or bitten me. Even a bad-tempered bull that belonged to one of the farmers was always most friendly toward me. Nor was I ever afraid of dogs, and none has ever attacked me. I would immediately forsake even my favorite toy if I saw a chance to steal away to the stables. My mother did everything possible to wean me off this love of animals, which seemed to her so dangerous, but in vain. I developed into a solitary child and was never happier than when playing or working alone and unobserved. I could not bear being watched by anybody. Jadi siapa Rudolf ini dia anaknya pendiam ya, introvert, terus dia nggak punya teman karena teman-teman dia tuh lebih muda, lebih tua daripada yang lain. Jadi dia berteman sama binatang-binatang gitu kayak Beauty and the Beast ya. Halo kecil. Itu seru tahu, wajib baca. Waktu itu ke Gramet terus ada Sherlock Holmes, jadi beli yang ada aja. Jadi Bang El jangan-jangan suka ini nih, suka detektif Conan nggak? Oke, kita lanjut ya. Water too had an irresistible attraction for me, and I was perpetually washing and bathing. I used to wash all manner of things in the bath or in the stream that flowed through our garden, and many were the toys or clothes that I ruined in this way. In this passion for water remains with me to this day. Nanti kita kayaknya 20 menit lagi aku akan udahan stream karena aku nggak enak silent readingnya mulainya jam 10 sampai jam 11, tapi kan aku sambil ngelatih kan sambil ngomong gitu, jadi aku nggak enak juga kalau misalnya sambil ini. Jadi aku akan baca sampai jam 10, habis itu aku udah live. Yang mau ikut, aku lagi di Taman Menteng sekarang, ada di Instagram, maksudnya kegiatan saya itu ada di Instagramnya saya lagu Indonesia, bahasa Club Jakarta atau lagu When I was 6 years old, we settled in the neighborhood of Mannheim. As before, we lived on the outskirts of the town, but to my great disappointment, there were no stables and no cattle. My mother often told me how for weeks on end, I was always thinking how it was working my parents didn't have the power at the time to distract me with my exaggerated love of animals. They did not succeed. I found books containing pictures of animals and would hide myself away and dream of my cows and horses. On my 7th birthday, I was given Hans, a coal black pony with sparkling eyes and long mane. I was almost beside myself with joy. I had a comrade at last. For Hans was the most confiding creature and followed me wherever I went like a dog. When my parents were away, I would even take him up to my bedroom. Since I was always on good terms with our servant, they accepted this weakness of mine and never gave me away. I had plenty of playmates of my own age where we now live. We played the game we played the game that children play all over the world. And I took part in many a youthful practice. But my greatest joy was to take my hands into the great heart forest where we could be entirely alone together, hiding for hour after hour without meeting a soul. Di Taman Menteng nih, iya Mas Bo. Sebenarnya nggak pernah nonton atau baca Conan, tapi karena main The Great Ace Attorney jadi penasaran sama Ace. Great Ace Attorney itu yang ini kan, yang siapa tuh namanya? Aktor yang udah pensiun itu loh. Ada yang lagi main patu roda. Bentar, lihat dulu. Kayaknya nggak ada deh. Thank you for the heart me, Mas Bow. Aku lanjut baca ya. Nih, buat yang pada baru datang, aku lagi baca ini nih. Thank you for the go popular, Mas Bow. Oke, kita lanjut ya. School and the more serious business of life have now begun. Nothing happened during these first school years that is of importance to my story. I was a keen student and used to finish my homework as quickly as possible so that I might have plenty of free time to wander about with Hans. My parents let me do more or less as I wished. My father had taken a vow that I should be a priest, and my future profession was therefore already firmly laid down. I was educated entirely with this end in view. My father brought me up on strict military principles. I was also influenced by the deeply religious atmosphere that pervaded our family life, for my father was a devout Catholic. While we lived at Baden-Baden, I saw little of my father, since he spent much of his time traveling, and his business sometimes kept him away from home for months at a time. All this changed when we moved to Mannheim. My father now found time almost every day to take an interest in me, either checking my schoolwork or discussing my future profession with me. My greatest joy was to hear him talk of his experience on active service in East Africa and to listen to his description of battles against rebellious natives and his account of their life and customs and sinister idolatries. I listened with passionate enthusiasm when he spoke of the blessed and civilizing activities of the missionaries, and I was determined that I myself should one day be a missionary in the gloomy jungles of the darkest Africa. They were red letters days indeed, when we were visited by one of the elderly, bearded African fathers whom my father had known in East Africa. I did not let one word of my conversation escape me, becoming so absorbed that I even forgot my hand. Halo Bang Agustur, welcome. Hari ini kita paginya aku nggak main game dulu, nanti malam mungkin kita coba IHL dengan conversation mode-nya. Hari ini aku mau baca buku ya. Ini judul bukunya buat yang nggak tahu, Commandant of Auschwitz by Rudolf Höss. Oke. Jadi si Rudolf Höss ini dulunya dia tinggal di Baden-Baden, cuman dia pindah ke Mannheim. Di Mannheim ini dia dapat kuda poni sama ini sama teman-teman, karena kan sebenarnya dia waktu di badan-badan itu kayak nggak punya temen gitu, karena dia tuh anak yang paling muda dibanding orang-orang sebaya dia gitu. Terus dia tuh suka banget sama animal gitu, jadi kayak Beauty and the Beast versi Jerman dan cowok gitu ya. Nah, emaknya itu berusaha ngedidik dia supaya nggak terlalu suka sama binatang, kan kesannya cewek banget gitu ya. Tapi kalau bapaknya itu malah mau dia jadi ini apa? Jadi pastor ya. Pokoknya masuk priest, pastoran gitu. Halo Dorman, welcome. Oke, kita lanjut. My family entertained a great deal, although they rarely visited other people's houses. Our guests were mostly priests of every sort. As the years passed, my father's religious fervor increased. Whenever time permitted, he would take me on individual pilgrimages to all the heritage of our country, as well as to Einsiedeln in Switzerland and to Laudes in France. He prayed passionately that the grace of God might be bestowed on me, so that I might one day become a place blessed by God. I too was as deeply religious as was possible for a boy of my age, and I took my religious duties very seriously. I prayed with true childlike gravity and performed my duties as a child with great earnestness. I had been brought up by my parents to be respectful and obedient towards all grown-up people, and especially the elderly, regardless of their social status. I was taught that my highest duty was to help those in need. It was constantly impressed upon me in forceful terms that I must obey promptly the wishes and commands of my parents, teachers, and priests, and in it of all grown-up people, including servants, and that nothing must disturb me from this duty. Whenever they said was always right. These basic principles on which I was brought up become part of my flesh and blood. I can still clearly remember how my father, who on account of his fervent Catholicism was a determined opponent of the Reich government and its policy, never ceased to remind his friend that, however strong one's opposition may be, the laws and decrees of the state has to be obeyed unconditionally. Halo Bang Osman, halo Kak Kol, lagi baca ya di Taman Menteng, Komandan of Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss. Buat yang nggak tahu, dia itu komandan di kamp konsentrasi Auschwitz zaman Perang Dunia II. Kalau kalian pernah dengar yang namanya Holocaust, pembantaian orang-orang Yahudi. Nah ini biografi komandan kamp konsentrasinya itu. Halo Galih, welcome. Oke, aku lanjut ya. From my earliest youth, I was brought up with a strong awareness of duty. In my parents' house, it was insisted that every task be exactly and conscientiously carried out. Each member of the family had his own special duties to perform. My father took particular care to see I obeyed all his instructions and wishes with the greatest meticulousness. I remember to this day how he hauled me out of bed one night because I had left the saddlecloth lying in the garden instead of hanging it up in the barn to dry as he had told me to do. I had simply forgotten it, all about it. Again and again he impressed on me how great it was almost always came from small, apparently insignificant mistakes. At the time, I did not fully understand the meaning of this attitude, but in later years, I was to learn to be the experience the truth of these words. Pernah baca Man Search for Meaning-nya Viktor Frankl nggak pernah? Pernah, aku baca itu waktu tahun 2019, dan setelah baca itu kan aku waktu itu lagi depresi, Bang Aus. Waktu itu aku juga nggak tahu kalau aku depresi. Aku baca itu, dan setelah itu aku memutuskan untuk ke psikiater, dan ternyata aku didiagnosa depresi karena suatu masalah tertentu. Itu bagus bukunya Bang Aus. Dan ternyata si Viktor Frankl ini ada 2 buku lagi. Yang kedua itu The Wheel of Meaning sama Embracing Hope. Nah, yang The Wheel of Meaning aku udah punya tapi belum aku baca. Ya, Embracing Hope tidak punya dan belum baca. Oke, lanjut lagi. The relationship between my parents was one of loving respect and mutual understanding, yet I never remember any display of tenderness. But at the same time, I never heard them exchange an angry word. While my two sisters, dia punya kakak perempuan, who were 4 and 6 years younger than I, were very affectionate and were always hanging about their mother. I had always, from my earliest years, fought shy of any sign of tenderness, much to the regret of my mother and of all my aunts and other relatives. A handshake and a few brief words of thanks were the most that could be expected of me. Ya aku udah. Halo, baca apa kamu? Kakak, aku lagi baca ini nih. Komandan of Auschwitz, Rudolf Hess. Komandan kamp konsentrasi di Polandia Jerman kan waktu itu perang dunia 2 nih yang ngebantai orang-orang Yahudi. Nah, dia komandan kamp konsentrasinya. Iya, aku udah lama baca itu, kayaknya pengen baca lagi Sun. Iya, kamu baca apa nih? Inggrisnya apa Indonesianya? Karena aku belum baca Indonesia, aku baca bahasa Inggrisnya. bahasa Inggrisnya. Oke, lanjut lagi. Although both my parents were devoted to me, I was never able to confide in them the many big and little worries that from time to time beset a child's heart. I had to work all my problems out as best I could for myself. My self-confidence was my pony, and I was certain that he understood me. My two sisters were very attached to me and were perpetually trying to establish a loving and sisterly relationship. But I never wished to have much to do with them. I shared in their game only when I had to, and then I would knock at them until they ran crying to my mother. Many were practical jokes that I played on them, but despite all this, their devotion to me remained unchanged, and they always regretted, and still do to this day, that I learned I was never able to have any warmer feelings for them. They have always been strangers to me. Kayaknya aku punya yang versi Indo deh, agak lupa. Ya udah, ini ya kalau buat kita pembaca buku kan kayak ada rasa kangennya buat baca buku yang sebelumnya udah kita baca, jadi baca lagi ya, baca lagi. Aku kayak juga mau pengen baca Harry Potter lagi kan, dalam menyambut nanti rilis serial Harry Potter yang baru. Ya mungkin nanti kita akan baca bareng lagi. Oke, lanjut. I had the greatest respect, however, for both my parents and looked up to them with veneration. But love, the kind of love that other children have for their parents, which I myself later learned to know, I was never able to give them. Why this should have been, I have never understood. Even today, I can find no explanation. I was not particularly well behaved and certainly not a model child. I was up to all the tricks normal to a boy of my age. I rocked with the others and took part in the wildest games and frolics whenever the opportunity came my way. Although there were kejatuhan, apa tuh namanya, bibit ini nih. Kayak seru acara baca bareng offline gitu ya. Banyak kok ininya, kayak yang silent reading gitu, jadi cuma datang baca kan dalam diem kan, habis itu ya udah nanti ada yang bareng-bareng, setelah silent readingnya kita bahas bukunya bareng-bareng, atau ya udah selesai baca cabut gitu. Pokoknya aku sih, ini sih buat aku enak deh, kan aku memang hobinya membaca ya gitu. Oke, lanjut tadi buku sampai mana? Okay. Although there were always times when I had to be on my own, I had enough friends to play with me when I wanted to. I spoke no nonsense and always held my own. If I were the victim of an injustice, I would not rest until I considered it revenge. In short matters, I was unbreakable and was held in terror by my classmates. Incidentally, during the whole of my time at the grammar school, I shared a bench with a Swedish girl who wanted to be a doctor. We always remained good friends and never quarreled. It was the custom of our school for the same pupils to share a bench during the whole time they were at school together. When I was 13 years old, an incident occurred which I must regard as the marking of my as marking the first shattering of the religious belief to which I adhered so firmly. Ada es krim? Nggak ada. Ini kan kita di taman terbuka ya, kalau mau ini cari jajanan-jajanan sekitar taman gitu. Kadang sih banyak silent reading itu yang dilakukan di kafe. Nah, ini pesen kue atau makan atau minuman gitu ya. Oke, 4 menit lagi aku udahan ya. Soalnya aku sebenarnya kita kan mulai jam 10, cuma kan saran kami ya literally datang habis itu baca habis itu pergi gitu. Aku nggak enak nih, sebelah aku ada orang dan aku takutnya mengganggu mereka gitu ya. Okay. During one of the usual scuffles that took place at the entrance to the gymnasium, I unintentionally threw one of my classmates downstairs. He broke an ankle as a result. During the years, hundreds of schoolboys must have tumbled down those stairs. I amongst them, and none had ever been seriously hurt. This particular boy was simply unlucky. I was given 3 days confinement. It was a Saturday morning. That afternoon I went to confession as I did every week, and I made a clean breast of this accident. I said nothing about it at home, however, as I did not wish to spoil my parents' Sunday. They would learn about it soon enough next week. My confessor, who was a good friend of my father, had been invited to our house that same evening. Next morning, I was tasked by my father concerning the accident and duly punished because I had not told him about it straight away. I was completely overwhelmed not on account of the punishment, but because of this undreamed of betrayal on the part of the confessor. I had always been taught that secrets of the sacred confessional were so inviolable that even the most serious offense there confided to the priest would never be revealed by him. And now this priest, in whom I had placed such implicit trust, to whom I regularly went for confession, and who knew by heart all the ins and outs of my petty sins, had broken the seal of confessional over a matter as trifling as this. It could only have been he who had told my father of the accident, for neither my father nor my mother nor anyone at home had been into town that day. Our telephone was out of order. None of my classmates lived in the neighborhood. No one other than this priest had visited us. For a very long time I brooded over all these details of this incident, so monstrous did it appear to me. I was then, and still remain, completely convinced that the priest had broken the seal of confessional secrecy. My faith in sacred priesthood had been destroyed, and thus doubts began to arise in my mind for the first time. I no longer went to this priest for confession. When he and my father took me on task on that account, I was able to make the excuse that I went to confession in our school church to the priest who gave us religious instruction. This seemed possible enough to my father, but I'm convinced that my former confessor knew my real reason. He did everything to win me back, but I could no longer bring myself to confess to him. In fact, I went further and gave up going to confession altogether, since I no longer regarded the priesthood as worthy of my trust. Halo Bubu, halo Dewi. Oke, karena udah 9:59 jadi aku rekap aja ya. Jadi so far aku ini Rudolf Hess yang merupakan komandan dari kamp konsentrasi Auschwitz zaman Perang Dunia II. Dia kita tahu dari masa kecilnya dia dulu di Baden-Baden, habis itu dia pindah ke Mannheim. Dia itu waktu di Baden-Baden tuh nggak punya teman karena itu yang paling muda kan, teman-teman itu udah tua, lebih tua daripada dia. Jadi dia sukanya bermain dengan binatang-binatang itu, ngeliatin pemandangan ke gunung, ke hutan gitu. Nah waktu dia pindah ke Mannheim itu dia kayak kesepian gitu, tapi dia habis itu dikasih poni sama emaknya, kuda poni. Habis itu dia akhirnya punya teman yang seumuran dengan dia gitu. Dan dia ini dibesarkan di lingkungan keluarga Katolik, jadinya dia itu dulunya mau bercita-cita jadi pastor gitu. Cuman ternyata dia kan habis kan dia ya udah bertumbuh selayaknya anak biasa kan ya. Cuman dia itu kan sempat nih kayak ngedorong temannya jatuh sampai patah kakinya gitu. Nah dia ngaku nih ke pastor. Ternyata pastornya ini menurut dia ember ke bapaknya, dan dia bapaknya marah lah. Dia kan marahnya wajar, gue masih wajar sih, dan menurutku nggak mungkin belum dia bisa aja sih pastornya ngebocorin, walaupun itu ya seperti ini dia melanggar sumpah untuk seorang pastor tidak memberitahukan tentang dosa yang diakui sama confessor yang ngaku dosa gitu. Cuman ya akhirnya dia ke yang percaya sama agama gitu, dan dia akhirnya nggak mau ngaku dosa lagi. Oke, thank you teman-teman yang udah temenin aku sama 4 jam. Nggak 4 jam, sorry. Ya mungkin setengah jam lebih dikit gitu. Buat yang mau tahu, aku Noviana Sherry, hobi aku sebenarnya membaca buku, dan aku lagi baca ini satu, bawa buku ini buat dibaca bareng-bareng di kegiatan saling book club. Dan sekarang kita lagi ngumpul-ngumpul di Taman Menteng. Nah karena udah mulai pada rame dan sebelah kanan kiri gue ada orang, jadi gue nggak enak kalau gue terus online sambil ngomong gitu. Jadi see you next time, bye bye.